hell did I end up on this show with these guys?
And I think a lot of people are probably like that. Like, I could do other stuff.
Yeah, I know. How do I got to
Right?
waste time with these two knuckleheads? So,
Well, before we get started, look at this golden mead of Corona
okay.
that is filled in my Myeth uh, Viking glass.
How many of those have you already had?
I've only had one, sir. This is my second.
Oh, okay. Well done. So, we got a lot of static going on here, but so I joining you today
All right.
in redneck mason jar action. Uh, and yeah, this is probably about as girly of a drink as we're going to allow on this show. But it's some pineapple peach energy drink and some vodka because when we get done with the show, I'm going to run some laps around the neighborhood. So there you go.
Ooh, electrolytes, and he's going to be messed up.
Might as
All
well,
right.
man.
All right, well, let's bring Shane on, man, because, there's a lot of Shanes in the community, and they need to all be in the same place.
And there he is.
There he is. What's up, dude?
How goes it?
How
It's
are
going
you?
good, man. Are you partaking in a beverage
Um,
this evening, Mr. Carpenter? Oh,
not nothing like you are.
All right.
that's okay.
Not tonight. Not tonight.
That's not. Yeah, well, it is Monday.
It is.
It's another day for Shane and I. So
Oh.
another day.
Dude, I watched Into the 400.
Cool.
I liked it.
It was that thing just kind of happened. We didn't really go in planning it per se. We went in. I brought the guys in just with the hopes of capturing some evidence,
Yeah.
and then we ended up with so much stuff. By the time that was all put together, we were already so much further along than what is in that. It was a year before. I think it was over a year before we actually released that, and so we had a year and a half, and had gotten so much further that we kind of realized that it is what it is. It's exactly what it was. It was just thrown together. We had help from Stacy Brown doing what he could with the footage and stuff. But our excitement when that came out was more along the lines of what was happening in the moment at that time, and not what was actually in that in the quote unquote documentary. So it was a learning experience. Looking back on it, man, it could have been so much better if I would have been, prepared to do what we ended up trying to do with it. It just wasn't in the cards on that, but we wanted to get it out just to expose people to what had happened the first time that we brought the guys in, and to experience it for themselves and as a group. We'd been experiencing this stuff out there, and just the whole aim of that was just to bring some other people in that were outside of the situation, that had never been there, and let them experience everything out there for themselves. And if nothing happened, cool. And going into it, that's what we expected. I expected nothing to happen, because usually you have a long-term project like that, and you bring some new people in, and everything shuts down. That's typically what happens, and the opposite happened, and it's continued to happen. And it's we've kind of, after we put that out, the excitement and stuff, it just kind of trying to make people aware of what had gotten started out there. Mm-hmm. And then we've from that point forward, we've kind of backed off again and kind of went back underground somewhat, and we're just doing our thing, continuing our process, and
we're still focused on that spot, that area.
Oh hell yeah. And it's crazier than ever.
I bet.
We brought Dan Nedrolo in.
He's a great guy.
Yeah, you guys met Dan and stuff. Great guy. We brought him in, and he got to experience. He got to be there for the first time that I approached one of these juveniles at night, while the guys were watching it on thermal. And I think we had him on the property for maybe an hour when this all went down and happened. And then we brought other people in. Chris Reinhardt came in, had his experiences, and from here forward, it's just me and Randy at this point, kind of going back and simplifying things with the two of us. And we're going to bring Dan in this year again at some point. And I've talked to Mark Newble and the possibility of bringing him in at the later on this summer. So yeah, we're just gonna keep pushing forward, man. And like, I almost don't even like talking about what we've been doing out there because it sounds so crazy. And the fact that we're not putting out, any evidence right now, it's hard to talk about it and exactly what's going on because without the evidence, it's
people want to see it.
It's hard to believe. I mean,
I want it right now.
And that's how it is, man. People, like, you say something and people want to see evidence of it, and I understand that. That's cool, but and then even when you put out the evidence, sometimes you're still going to hear shit from part of the community anyway. So I've just kind of learned.
I don't have one of those, so that's not real.
Right.
You posted a picture recently, though, didn't you, Shane, from a trail cam?
Yeah, no, that's actually from video.
Okay.
And we have it being there and not being there, and then being there again. Those pictures that I put out, if you look up on I believe it was the top left corner, there's timestamps on them, and those timestamps are from the video.
Okay.
And part of that is to show that the video is actually on YouTube, and it's been on YouTube for quite a while, and it's something we missed. And a friend of mine that's building a website and stuff for us, and it's just became a friend and in general over the past few years, Gary Schutte. We were looking at another piece of that video that was brought to my attention, and Gary Schutte actually took that video, and between me and him and a friend of mine in California discovered that thing there, whatever it is. I've made no claims to it, but in the video, when that subject is there and then not there and there again, we're getting what sounds like roars. And that's the name of the video. It's on my YouTube channel, and all this happens in the very beginning of the video. And it's just something that we have missed that Gary Schutte caught while we was looking at something else throughout that 4 minutes of the video. And sure enough, I went back on the original footage, and there is something there, and it drops down at one point.
What is it called, Shane?
I believe that video is Roars in the 400.
Yeah, there's definitely something there. I mean, what it is, I don't know either, but yeah, I mean, it's there and it ain't, so that's for sure. So
yeah, and what kind of sucks is that day, a guy that was involved with me in the early process of that property, he picked me up, and we were in a hurry. We were running late, and because he was from out of town. So in the haste of everything, I left my camera bag sitting by the door, and I didn't realize it till we got out there. So the footage is actually from a little action camera that he had attached to his hat, and then from my phone. So the footage isn't as good as you would hope or to catch. I wish I would have had better equipment at the time, but there's so much stuff going on out there that I'm almost to the point of just the way things have happened and the way things have moved forward. Trying to figure out all these other things is kind of gone now. We've kind of moved forward with our intent, with what we're trying to do, and like we're trying to habituate these juveniles and get close to them over and over consistently, and then throw cameras in the mix, and hopefully be able to show the world what's going on. And if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But man, we're getting getting close. I mean, I'm getting within 8 to 10 foot of these things. I've done it
God, that's crazy.
I've done it 6 times now, and every
So,
time it's
is
a
there,
little more intense.
Shane, do you ever fear, like an adult or I don't know, something that's watching the situation might
Oh, for
come in?
sure.
Yeah.
For sure. The first time that I did this is when Dan was with us, actually, and we had the smaller juvenile pinned down in a field about 100 feet from us behind a big patch of grass. This area had flooded, and the grass was 2 to 3 foot tall, and the water was in there for a bit. And when it subsided, when it pulled out, it went rather quickly, and so it pulled a lot of the grass down as it receded, and it left large clumped areas. So this juvenile was laying down behind a clump, and anyway, we went through this process of what we do when I'm trying to approach these things, and it went on for about 15 minutes, and then something happened, and we decided it was a good time to pull out and walk away from the situation and go back to camp. They actually followed us back to camp. We got back to camp, which was only about, I mean, not even an eighth of a mile away, and threw some rocks. We got there and settled, and it's like they were letting us know they were still on us. But long story short, the next day, throughout the time, that 15 minutes that we were doing this, you always have in the back of your mind, where's the adult? Where's the adult? Because when we find these tracks, there's a set of 15-inch tracks that are always with these two juvies, and we just assume it's the mother because we've seen the father, and he has larger feet. He's running about 16 and a half, 17 inches. So the next day when we went out to recreate the whole situation and video everything during the day, we went out behind the area, and what stopped that whole thing from happening was a rock got thrown, and what sounded like the juvenile clacking its teeth real loud. So there was this loud clack that came from the juvenile, and I can't say it was the teeth, but that's what my brain computed when it happened. And then a rock came flying out from the foliage and the trees behind it. The next day when we went back, we found the mother's tracks back in that foliage in those trees. So the mother had been another 30 foot back and to the left out of view of the thermal camera. Mm-hmm. And she had gotten involved, and that's the only time that's happened. But it's crazy, man. It's really intense. It's sometimes you feel like you're stupid doing some of this stuff.
Like
we approached one night, and me and Randy both did this together. There was 4 of us there, and Dan was there also. And when we got in on this subject that was in this thicket, a lot of it was perspective, and once you got in tighter, we realized this was a pretty good size owl. So you're trying to control your adrenaline stuff, thinking you're possibly walking up on one of these things.
Yeah.
Turns out it's just an average everyday owl. So you have those moments too. But at this point, we don't have to hike around and find them on the property. They come to camp, and so they've kind of made that easier. But I've moved camp last year, and part of the reason I did it, well, there's a few reasons I did it, but part of it was just switching things up and creating some change, because I do everything in patterns, basically. I try to do the same things all the time, so they're never caught off guard. And our old camp was set up to where they had 2 buffer zones to where they could come in and feel fairly safe. And so I moved camp to a particular hill where they seem to always come from. And now we're on top of their hill, or what I consider to be their hill. And the buffer zone only goes out about 30 to 40 yards outside of camp. And so it's enabled them to come in closer. Mm-hmm. And so that when we're doing this, now we're doing it from camp, and the guy, whoever's with me and Randy that are helping out, everybody's there at camp while I'm just going out 30, 40 yards from camp and trying to move this process further, you know. And so it allows us not to be, you know, humping around all the damn equipment. And now we can start using a little better equipment. You know, you're not running around with $5,000 and $6,000, $7,000 cameras out in the woods in the rain. And, you know, we can kind of hide the cameras a little occasionally, but it's just been a long process. Dropping back now, me and Randy are going to start as soon as I get back to Missouri. I'm out in Colorado now, so as I go back and forth, I've been going back and forth here lately, but that's going to be done pretty soon. And then me and Randy are going to go back to hitting it hard. And I expect it to be a crazy summer if everything goes well. If it continues how it has year to year, you know, it's only kept getting crazier. So that's what I expect to keep happening.
Now, you said something about 2 juvies. Are you thinking these things are twins, just close in age? What's your thoughts on that?
You know, I've kind of quit thinking about it, to be honest. Like I said, all those questions, you know how this is, man. You start figuring something out, and it just leads to more questions and more questions. And we've gotten to this point with what we're doing now that, don't get me wrong, I do think about that stuff. I'm obsessed with this whole subject, you know. I don't necessarily think that they're twins. One is smaller than the other, so it leads me to guess or theorize that there may be a year or 2 years apart. You know, if I'm thinking on human terms, you know, we don't know how long their gestation periods are and whatnot. So just in thinking in human terms, you know, maybe a year or 2 apart. But I'm pretty positive that the younger one is a male and that the older one is a female. That's partially due to tracks. I've seen both of them during the day, and so we've had visuals of their faces and their heads and shoulders. Not so much.
What color are they? Are they like that reddish, or are they black?
No, they're black. You can see some brown when the light hits the young male, right? But they look completely different from each other. Like the younger one, I say him just because when I say him, I'm just assuming, right? I don't have any concrete proof.
Right. No, yeah.
One of the things that leads me to believe it's a young male is because of the tracks. We've been collecting the tracks of these 2 juvies for several years now, and the younger tracks are more robust, way meatier, and the older juvie tracks they're skinnier. They're for lack of a better word, they're more feminine. And we're seeing these tracks. We're seeing the tracks start to develop and widen up now and start to flatten out. So, you know, that was a big part of this project in the beginning, was these tracks, because we were able to get these 2 juvie sets. You know, I was really intent on collecting their tracks year to year to year and being in the right place at the right time to get those tracks every year.
Watching the growth.
Yeah, and collecting the data on the growth. And because one of the odd things about the young male track is it has an arch. Not only does it have an arch, but it's shown on several occasions on several tracks that its foot will bend like this. So not only are they bending, is that mid-tarsal break bending this way, but it's also allowing them to bend this way. And I would just assume that's more for climbing when they're younger. Being lighter, they're probably going to do more climbing, you know, I would assume. And being young and being more agile and lighter. So we've got some really cool stuff that has to do with the tracks. I've got some tracks of these juvies of the female stepping on a stick this thing is sticking up about 1.5 inches out of the track, the center of the track. And so this individual stepped down on this, and it didn't sink, you know, it's still sticking up in the track. It stepped down on this pointed stick that's about as big around as my finger, sticking up about 1.5 inches. And the stride continued. There was no re-step. Like if a human would have done it, they would have stepped on that, and as soon as they felt the pressure on the bottom of the foot, they immediately would have re-stepped, and there was no re-step. So, we've got all kinds of things that show that these aren't human tracks, even though they are similar to human tracks. But now like I said, now we're seeing them kind of start to whiten out, flatten out a little bit. So that was a big focus, and it's kind of I've quit focusing on that because I would rather spend my time now when I'm out there trying to interact and approach these things versus hiking to the place where these tracks are left at a certain time of the year. My focus is just kind of changed because of the opportunity, I guess I would say, of what's happening.
Man, and the fact that you guys are dealing with juveniles, they might make themselves more visible to you guys than say like an adult or whatever that we've been looking for, because it's like we're being toyed with out there. Seriously, it's like so frustrating.
Absolutely. To my knowledge, I've never seen the adult female. We get our tracks with the two juvies, and we'll find her tracks near where the juvies are when we're doing all this night stuff. But it's as if she's allowing these juvies to interact with us to an extent, and it gets cut off at times, by her, as it seems to be. But the last few times it hasn't. I've been the one that cut it off because the last time was really intense, man. I'm really good at controlling my adrenaline. I used to be a professional fighter, so
yeah, you fight MMA, didn't you?
Yeah. I've been in martial arts my whole life. I've been coaching the last 15 years or so, and anyway, I'm really good at in crazy times when crazy stuff is going down. I'm always calm and collected, and the last couple of times, man, it's gotten pretty intense, and I've had to pull out of the situation and kind of change my pants and readjust my belt loops. But we're working on it, man. We're still trying to push forward, and it's been a little while since we have been out there. We've had some things going on with the property itself and just time. I've been out of town quite a bit this year, and so it's been just here and there that I've been able to get out and do what I do.
That might kind of reset stuff out there for you guys a little bit too, right? I mean, just a little bit.
Well, last year when the last time I brought all the guys in, it was probably the most intense time that we've had out there. They came in at 2:00 in the afternoon, and they had never done that before. Ooh. And myself and Chris Reinhardt, Chris got to have his first daytime visual. So that was cool. But the crazy thing about it was we hadn't been out there in quite a while, in several months. I hadn't been out there myself in about a month and a half, maybe 2 months. And I made a run out there to kind of clear the campsite area, the new camp area. And they let me know that they were out there, that they were, on me while I was doing that. But it was almost as if, I don't know, things ramped up, I don't like saying it's almost as if they were excited that we were there because they had some dudes to mess with or something.
There comes that one guy with, I'm going to arm wrestle that one dude this time.
Yeah. Better be me, not Randy.
Yeah.
But no, man, we're having a lot of fun with it. Like I said, that last group outing out there was really intense. We had, like I said, they came in during the day at 2:00 in the afternoon, which was a first. We'd had them come in at 5:30, 6:00 at certain times of the year as it's starting to get dark, early, and the sun's starting to go down. And but this was the first time we'd had them come in like midday like that. And, we have no idea why, but they came in, one on each side, knock, just like they typically will do. And and we used Randy pulled out the thermal and the one that was down the hill from us. We got onto it. And I went down, and I ended up at the property line fence, and you know, down the Ozarks, man, you go on other people's property and you get shot. You know, it's just how it is. You never know when you're out in the sticks. So we respect people's properties, and you know, we try to as best we can in these moments. So luckily, when I came to the fence, it stopped and backtracked about 10 feet and then stopped. And Chris come down the hill with the camera. So we shot a little bit of daytime footage that had to be stabilized and stuff. I had the camera completely zoomed out, but it's nothing great. You know, a few people have seen it. We've showed it to some close friends and whatnot, but it's nothing spectacular. But more than anything, it was about like Chris getting his first daytime sighting, you know. So yeah, and then that night it progressed, and we had another approach, and we got some, well, basically samurai chatter, and it was the first time we've ever had that, and that was.
I've always wanted to hear that.
Man, I tell you what. So I'm gonna tell you guys.
Hey, I want to hear all that, man.
I'm gonna tell you guys a story real quick, and a few of our friends have heard this. But basically, they came at 2:00 that afternoon. We did our best to, you know, do what we could to get a little bit of footage, but you know, we don't chase them. It ruins things. You know, I've already been there and done that once in the past, and so you just get what you can and you know, continue forward. You know how it is, man, and always chasing it. You know, you're chasing, but you're not chasing, I guess. You know, so
you're just running blindly in the woods.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
They're at the top one. Look at these.
Yeah. So that happened during the day that afternoon, and kind of caught us off guard and threw us for a loop. We weren't prepared for it. We didn't have like recorders going or anything like that. You know, it was all just, holy cow, here we go. So that night we expected, you know, things to happen, and as the sun was setting, there's down the hill from our camp. We've got it set up to where one side of the camp is like a safe zone for them. They can come in. It's super thick, like a wall of vines and weed. I mean, you can't even see through it with the thermal. It's so thick, and if it's humid at all and cold, you know, you can't even see through it. But that's what it's there for us, as far as where our camp is at, is to give them a buffer. So the downside of the hill is a little more open and just trees, you know, kind of spread out. And down at the bottom, there is there's like this hole in the woods. It's even during the day, it's darker than the rest of the woods. And as it gets dark, it turns into pitch dark in this hole. So I was down facing this hole, kind of sitting in front of it, and it's starting to get dark. And there's some, for lack of a better word, there's some words that we have caught several times. So I go out and repeat those words occasionally. You know, I have no idea what they mean. We have ideas, but nothing concrete. You know, you can look up different Native American languages and you'll find words occasionally, but we found it in a couple places, so we don't know exactly what it means, but we've caught it and captured it several times. I was doing some using some Native American terms, and then I did some samurai chatter. Didn't think nothing of it. So that night they come in. Randy locates the one that's behind the basically the wall of you know, vines and crap. At the northeastern end of it, it's only about 4.5 foot tall. So it allows them to stay behind it, and they can pop up and drop and pop up, you know, and watch us. So we catch the one out there. I take off. I go out to it, and I don't remember what happened, but Randy got distracted for a moment. When I go out, I'm not using a flashlight. I'm not turning it on my way out. You know, the goal is to get me, you know, about 10 feet away from them, and then I have a seat, and we see what transpires from there. And we're trying different things, you know, but this particular time, Randy got distracted for a moment, and then all of a sudden I hear Randy go, "Hey, you're right where it was." And as he says that, I pop out of this thicket to the back side of it, and then I'm kind of like, "Oh shit," you know. I immediately I turn around and I'm like, "What? I'm right where it was?" He said, "Yeah, you're right where it was." So this was the first time where my adrenaline kind of went, kind of kicked in. I pulled out my flashlight and I kicked my flashlight on, which was, I don't know if it was the correct thing to do or not, but I started scanning through this thicket all around me, on the, back to my left that I just came through. And I'm thinking to myself, man, this thing could be, 5-10 foot away from me and I can't even see it. I wouldn't even be able to see it with my flashlight through this thick stuff. And just after I thought that to myself, samurai chatter. But it wasn't like the tone of the recordings that you hear. The only way I could explain the difference is, like, in those recordings, to me, they're speaking loudly, and there's a lot of high and mid tonage to those vocals. This was more low tone and mid tone, like it was being low key, kind of, like it was.
He was like, "Hey, mother liquor, I heard what you
Yeah,
said."
yeah.
Samurai chatter.
Exactly. But it was loud enough for the guys at camp to also hear. They heard the undertones of it also. And I said back to the guys, that was samurai chatter. And at this point, now my adrenaline is pumping, completely unexpected. It would have been if I would have been somebody that would freak out, that would have been the moment,
That would have been the time.
But Randy yells to me, "Hey, why don't you back out, man? We don't know what that means. I'd feel better if you just, if you pull out right now." So my adrenaline's pumping. I'm tripping at this point, and may have peed a little bit.
Understand.
Yeah, and I waltzed my happy ass back through all that stuff to camp, and kind of watching my back the whole time. And Randy was kind of nervous and watching my back with the thermal. And I got back to camp, and of course, immediately we're looking at each other, going, "Holy cow, that just happened!" And then we hear it crashing off as it ran away, and that was the most part of it for that evening. But earlier on in that evening, we were all sitting around camp, and they throw rocks and stuff in camp. Was before they really get super active. It's almost like they're letting they're there. Dan Nedrolo actually kept a rock that was, probably about like that. They got thrown in. We were all sitting in camp together around the fire, and they got thrown over our heads and hit our tent and bounced off. And Dan kept it as a souvenir.
That's cool.
It was the first rock that he got to see fly into a camp, and thrown by something outside of camp. And what that is, we don't know. We've seen them, and we're trying to interact with them, but what are they? Who knows, man?
It's squirrels with slingshots. I tell everybody.
Something.
Yeah.
Something.
Hey, I got a question for you though.
These Ozark coons are smart, let me tell you.
Yeah. When you mentioned the Native American language, you said you may have recognized it a couple. Would any of it happen to be Osage Indians?
So the main word that we've captured consistently is, we found it in Cherokee, and we found it in Chiricahua Apache. And I always look at Chiricahua Apache first, because I have Chiricahua Apache, genetics in me from my dad's side. So that's where I always tend to look first. Information bias is terrible, but it's always where I start. But we did find it in Cherokee too, and basically the word is ahu, and it means in Cherokee, I believe, it was hello, and in Chiricahua Apache, it was more of friend, like hello, friend.
Oh.
And so I was excited to hear something good versus
Yeah.
kill you or
Yeah,
Yeah.
gonna die or something.
yeah,
Yeah,
Hairless
die.
devil.
I was just curious because I know
Now,
that the Osage was such a big, a big group when you get into like northern Oklahoma and Missouri. So that's why I was wondering how predominant that would be for them, just based on that history. So that's why I was curious about Osage Indians. So.
yeah, and there's a lot of theories on these things and what they can understand and what they can't understand. I don't. I try not to go in assuming. Like like this is a big hurdle for us right now. Is we have all this crazy shit happening and it's like, where do you go next? How do you push? How do you push forward? How do you try to communicate? How do you like we're in this zone where I mean I don't know anybody personally that is doing something like this that I can call and say, hey, you've done this. What do I do next? Me and Randy
Mhm.
Randy's a thinker, man. He sits
Well,
and
he is.
wells up
Yeah.
stuff, and he comes up. He's an intelligent man, and he comes up with some
Sure.
great ideas. And Randy's convinced that we may have a very young one in the mix that the mother may be carrying around right now, or at least last year was carrying around. Um, we haven't found any tracks to prove that, but there's things that these things leave around the property that tells me certain things. So I've never divulged on these things, because at this point there's been other people on the property. There's
Mhm.
like there has been somebody that has been on the property and knows where it's at, that has talked to other people about trying to get on the property, through another property. And so I try not to divulge all the things that kind of tell you where they're at and where they're hanging at on the property and
Yeah.
that
I
kind of thing.
understand that.
I don't blame you
Right.
one bit.
Don't blame me for that, dude. Mm.
We also had the property owner passed away, and so the dynamics of me being on the property has changed also, and everything's
Yeah.
good. We're still allowed to go out there, and but there was the way he died on his property and stuff. So we felt like it was appropriate to take some time away and let the family doesn't live on the property. He stayed on the property a lot, and there's his cousin lives on the property. So he kind of stayed out there to keep an eye on his cousin a lot. She's older and kind of mentally challenged, but is able to live on her own. And so he was out there. He stayed out the cabin a lot to kind of keep an eye on her and help her and whatnot. But so yeah, the whole dynamics changed out there a little bit. And crazy enough, throughout that whole process, the Walt, the guy that owned the property and took care of it and was out there the most, the guy that I dealt with, he knew they were there. He had seen them. He had some interactions, unwanted interactions with them. But before he died, like he was totally at peace with these things being there, and was to a point where he was just kind of leaving the bottoms of his property to them. And he would go down. He wouldn't go down by himself, but he would go down with friends and stuff into the bottoms sometimes to do what he needed to do, and that was it. So it was cool that happened before he passed and whatnot. And
That is cool.
Because
his sister, his sister now and her husband kind of take care of the property and keep an eye on his cousin that lives out there. And there's been some things that have happened that there's been some things happen out there that were just, one of them just completely blew my mind. And it's one of those things that like you can tell people, but it's just something nobody would ever believe, like he didn't have like any kind of relationship with these things out there. But like I said, he came to peace that they were there and was cool with them being there. And it was basically about, it was several months ago. His sister called me and she sent me a picture, and there's a particular thing that they a little structure that they make on the property in certain areas, and is like markers. And they made one of these on his Jeep, and his Jeep was no way it could have happened on its own. His Jeep was under a big metal carport, and yeah, this thing was left on his Jeep, and it's like their marker. And his sister called me crying, you know, because it just brought a lot of emotion out of her and stuff, you know, because he had taken her on the property and shown her a few of these and told her that, and showed her kids that this is their sign. They leave these throughout the property, and this is one of the ways that Shane found them, was able to find them and get to them. And so, yeah, there's been some things like that happened.
Wow.
And just, it's kind of mind-boggling, and almost kind of choked me up, you know, when as soon as I saw the picture, I was kind of took things to a different kind of weird level. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like they, you know, what are they saying with that? Are they just saying, you know, hey man, where you at? I haven't seen you in a while, or are they understanding that he's probably not coming back? Because like I said, it happened on the property. And
Wow.
so yeah, just weird, crazy things, man. And it's unbelievably nuts out there sometimes, just the things that happen and the things we find and come across. And you know, at some point we'll be able to just put it all out. My hope is that this summer, that the things that I, you know, really want to happen finally happen, and we'll be able to just include this and put it all out together, because it'd be really cool for people to see. Like, we've been talking about this for a couple of years now, you know, and being pretty open about it, you know, over the last year or so. Well, year and a half or so ago, I guess. But it'd be really cool for it to go down and work out this summer, and then we could just put out the whole thing where people could see from the beginning all the way till it finally happened, till I'm finally sitting in front of one of these things out in the open, you know. And we've gotten new equipment, you know, the new Psionics cameras. I'm sure you guys have seen those.
Hey man, I'm in the market for a FLIR, or pretty much any heat signature type camera I want it to shoot good, man.
So the best thing that you can get on the market right now is the ATN Thor scope, rifle scope. Okay, so that scope, it has the best download rate, and that's where you lose on most of the thermals, is the download rate will be shitty. So they have the best download rate on the market. So and as far as I'm concerned, the best screen inside the scope, like it's crystal clear on those, crystal clear, man. And if you want to spend $4 or $5 grand, you can get one that zooms in 25 times. You know, they have one that you can spend a little more on, and it'll zoom in 50 times. You can, man, if you catch one, it's got a built-in rangefinder, so you can get a pretty good idea of exactly how far away it is. After that, you can pop a line on the top and on the bottom of whatever you're looking at, and you can get a height. You can get a, you know, it's pretty amazing what these things do. But as far as the download rate, which is what is important to us, is it has the best on the market. So they're killer, man. The ATN Thors are killer. From what I hear, that's a good question, Can Squatch. From what I hear, they are getting ready to come out with a new line, and that usually means that the other ones will go down, you know. So
that's always a plus.
Yeah. Save a few $1,000s.
Yeah, no doubt.
So Pat was asking a while ago. I'm sorry, Pat Turner, I didn't answer that question. When's that next dot going to drop? Man, I don't know. That's why I'm not talking about it much. You know, it's such a long process, and I'm such a busy guy, and I really want this one to be hands-on, and I want it to be awesome. But I've got a buddy that's in the business, and is pretty well known. He's a director and producer, and so at some point, you know, I'm going to have him talked into taking care of it for us, and
there you go.
You know, so it has a, you know, look, I'm a backwoods hick. Okay, I like to go out and track things and chase things that aren't supposed to be real. I'm not a producer, man. I'm not good at that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? So I have to put it in somebody else's hands that can make it interesting. But my whole thing is, if we can be successful this summer, I can put it all out, and it's not going to need production and all the bullshit. It's just, like, I would rather it be that way, just raw. You get what you get, and in the end, here it is. We got this thing to sit down in front of us from 10 feet away, and we're doing it over and over and over, and we're going to be able to keep showing you this shit now as it goes. I don't care about all the production and storyline.
Man,
and
if
all
that doesn't blow your skirt up, I don't know what will.
right. So yeah, that's my answer. I don't know, man, but I mean, it's been started. I do have some people working on it, and that it is what it is. So, have I seen any lights or orbs in the 400? I have seen a couple lights, but I've seen orbs, but what I would call orbs, I have not seen in the 400. There's a place east or west of Springfield where I'm from called Joplin, Missouri, and they have what's called the Joplin Spook Light. And, I went over to that. We went over twice in high school, saw it once. The other time we didn't see it, but like, I would consider that an orb. And this thing was, the size of a volleyball, maybe. That's what it looked like.
I'm going to be in Joplin this weekend, so.
Yeah, well, there you go, man. Ask around; they'll tell you where it's at. It's scientists have went out, and scientists have researched it and tried to figure out what it is and if something's causing it. But as far as the 400, no. I have, when somebody asks that question, it tends to lead to, are the orbs and Bigfoot or Sasquatch, whatever you want to call them, are they?
It's usually like a lead up question.
Yeah. So I'll just go there anyway.
They bait you with it. So.
And when I talk about this, it pisses some people off, but it's my opinion, and we have some data that points towards this. And I've got a friend that's working on this right now. That's really focused on it. So, which is good, because I was focusing on it for a while, trying to figure it out. And with everything else we have going, I just don't have time to focus on those things anymore and try to figure this stuff out. It takes a lot of time, man, a lot of thought.
I'm not trying to break your brain,
Yeah, and chatting with other people, sometimes to kind of get your brain thinking. But a friend of mine had a geologist that was involved in, and this geologist was going out and finding areas like high energy areas. A lot of times it'll be like fault line crest points, things like that. So there are people that map high energy zones, right? Go county to county, and they find these places and map them out. They do this for, the government, whoever. Sometimes it's just geology and science coming together, and there's colleges they're doing this, but no ulterior motive. No, I wasn't saying that. I wasn't saying that at all, man. But it always kind of leads to it, so that's why.
Yeah,
but
it just does.
Long story short, one of these high energy areas is in the 400. Okay, my old research area is a high energy area. We've checked other researchers, a couple other researchers' areas. They're high energy areas. So what you find in these areas, where at least what we're putting together, is that maybe or maybe not Sasquatch are pulled to these high energy areas, attracted to these high energy areas, right? And it's nothing too crazy to think that, our whole planet is, electric and magnetic. So there's other animals that work off the magnetics of the planet, birds, different animals. So it's not too crazy to think that there may be attracted to high energy areas. But one of the things that you have in high energy areas is orbs, and these orbs can be created by these energy zones, these fault line crest points, at times rubbing, and it will create sparks and orbs at times. And so that's a possibility to me, that it's not that the orbs are connected to Sasquatch. It's that the Sasquatch are possibly connected to high energy areas or attracted to high energy areas. And these orbs happen naturally within those areas anyway. And you get people going out researching Bigfoot and they see orbs. And because they're out looking for Bigfoot, these two things are now connecting, you know.
Yeah.
And I could be completely wrong. Hell, I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm with you, dude. Yeah.
But it's there's other places that I've looked into where orbs are a fairly constant phenomenon, and they're all high energy areas. You know, they all seem to be high energy areas. So could be a connection, could not. You know, I don't know. It's just something that we've really looked into, and once we got onto it, I kind of dove into it, and it seemed really interesting, a really interesting thought process, you know, as far as that goes. I try not to take other people's experiences, and I'm not saying in any way that I don't believe other people's experiences. It's just we're experiencing certain things, and I don't want my mindset to change or have other ideas popping in and out of it because of what's happening to other people.
Exactly.
When we're really focused on trying to connect the data that we are getting ourselves to tell us what we're dealing with and what these things can do or can't do. You know, are people experiencing these, you know, all these other things? Sure. I mean, I've experienced some other crazy things, but it had nothing to do with what we're doing, you know.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe there's different types of these things, and maybe some of them can do some things and some of them can't, you know, or maybe some of them have evolved.
Like what we're getting out there has a slight divergent big toe. I mean,
Right. And that's another thing that we found is it doesn't seem as though, to me, and with what we're finding in the groups that I've tracked into, that these things are like there's a certain type and there's a certain type and here's a certain type. Like the last group that I was chasing, there was 5 of them and they all looked completely different.
Wow.
One of them looked like the first time I saw it, I thought, I wasn't sure if I was seeing like a homeless dude that was been living out in the woods for years on his own.
Oh, that's just Gary Spikes Jr.
Well, we have a funny story about that too, though, Shay. That goes way back to Falk. So
yeah.
And our good friend Mr. Church here probably could elaborate on it some, but I guarantee you,
I know that Shane and Randy met up with Gary before, and that he's a trip, man.
Yeah.
He left some serious footprints in Falk, Arkansas.
He sure did.
And not on purpose. It was muddy and wet, and he went trekking through, and we kind of all had a good laugh at it. But it was interesting.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah.
Now we had somebody ask earlier, is this going to be a regularly scheduled weekly show? We do this every 2 weeks. So.
This is a weird beard guy from 2 weeks ago.
Oh yeah.
He's changed his name to that, which, you know, whatever.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember that guy now.
Yeah.
But yes, sir, we are on every 2 weeks. I'm
just calling him Weird Beard because
Weird Beard. That's what you did call him last time.
Yeah, I was like,
start an argument with us, or
he's a boat rocker, dude, and that's fine.
He was picking on Big Dog. That's what it was. He was picking on Big Dog. So
yeah.
Oh well. Pat says there's a better than the A10 Thor. So or the ATN, I think is what he's meaning there. But
there is way better than the.
Well, that's the best that I've gotten my hands on. So
that's how Pat does, though, man. Pat's like, I know. There's better shit.
I actually almost reached out to Pat earlier today. I watched one of his videos, and I'm going to. We need to chat, Pat. I want to hear about this other thermal.
Oh yeah, here he is. Yeah,
Lockbeard. Yeah. All right, there we go.
I would love to. I want to see the 45-minute orb footage.
Yeah, Pat.
I'd love to see that, Pat.
Was that?
But it's just not something that we're getting in the 400, So I don't really have any reason to dive into it and think about it and wonder about it because we're not experiencing that. Now, if it was to happen this summer, then I would probably have to start looking into it again. Even though it's a high energy area and I expect to see something like that out there, I would, if I started seeing them, of course, I would want to, I'd want to dig into it. So
I'm not sure what
here's what it is, man.
You know what? Now that Shane talks about the high energy areas, I wonder if any of that is valid out where we look.
Oh, I was
Anywhere.
going to ask, what do you guys use to measure that energy?
Do it.
Well, so I was sent a map of the county that my area was in with the high energy area marked.
Okay.
Because the geologist did not know where my research area was, so I was sent the map with the county, and the main high energy area is right in the 400. So
I think things like this, when you have activity going on in a certain area, any kind of little piece like this, I think is important just to remember, hey, this is a high energy spot, blah, blah, blah,
Yep.
Not saying
data though, you could start getting, some kind of patterns and things like that.
Yeah, dude.
Well, that's what we've looked for.
So.
Yeah, that's what we've looked for, and at some point, I'm going to test this. We have several locations that I can get to that are high energy areas, and once I have more time, like all my time is basically devoted to the 400 because of what's going on there. Like,
I don't blame you, dude.
It's so important to me to if we fail and we do something and mess up the situation, it is what it is. You know what I mean? Because dude, we've had some great experiences. We've got to bring other people out. They've got to have these experiences with us, so they'll always be able to talk about it. But if once I have time, once this is over out there, whenever that happens, I'm going to be going into these other areas that I know are high energy areas to see if it's a viable thing or not. It could be just the 4 researchers that we've checked into and to see if their areas are high energy. It could be just there's a possibility. Could just be random that we all 4 in high energy areas, but doesn't seem to be the case. The reason that this geologist reached out to a friend of mine was because he started having crazy experiences when he would go out to physically locate these places. So they're using satellites and all kinds of shit to find these areas now. They don't have to go out and take readings and stuff anymore.
Right.
But they typically will send people out boots on the ground to go locate these places, and get physical, in physical readings and whatnot. These high energy areas, you can get a decent base reading, and then you can go to like these teepee structures and whatnot, and you'll get spikes around them and inside of them, So what's that about? So I know of several people that are looking into that and that have checked into that, and they do get higher readings inside these structures, particular types, I should say, probably. But like I said, this is all I've looked into a lot of this stuff, and it's hard to find answers to these questions. Are high energy locations mapped by U.S. Geological Service? I couldn't tell you that. I would say probably you would be able to find that information, but I was dealing with somebody who was friends with a geologist that was doing this, so it wasn't firsthand for me. He was the in between contact kind of. So Bigfoot magic.
I don't know.
I haven't experienced any, so I can't really speak on it. It's not to say that it doesn't happen for some people. I don't know, but I just haven't experienced it, so I can't speak on it. It's if that stuff is real, man, I would love it to happen. I would love it to happen. Like I'm open for some mind speak, man. I'm down.
Yeah.
Bring I've went out and meditated, like literally meditated, with the hopes that something like that would be real and happen. Like it's been a long process, and where looking into everything got me was back to where I am, which is just focusing on what we get here, and letting that tell us what we're dealing with and what's happening. So yeah, I've just kind of moved past all the questions and just, it is what it is. I'll question what's happening and how it's happening when we're dealing with it, and stay focused on that. That's basically what we're doing now, man. Because
Awesome.
you can argue with people all day long online.
Oh God,
You're not going to change people's mind. I mean,
Some of them are there to argue. So
the Bigfoot community can be like politics at times. It's
oh my God,
it can get stupid. And I wish people would just learn to agree to disagree and be cool with other people's opinions. It's
yeah,
like we're trying not to base what we think off of opinions. We're trying to gather data and use the data that we have to give us an idea of what's going on. And anything past that is kind of dilutes what we're looking into as far as what's happening. Like you move out past what you're actually experiencing, and you're diluting everything else because you're not focused on it. What if the structures?
I see his question now, and I kind of see where he's thinking at on this. So what if that is just a natural phenomenon that's high energy area? So
yeah, so the first thing you need to do if you're looking at a structure and it's giving off a high reading is you need to do some studying on whether or not dead trees give off any kind of any kind of energy. That's a good start. If they do, then, and you don't look into that first, then you've just completely waxed yourself because you're getting high energy readings and you have an answer, right? So that's the first place you need to look. But in that process, I got to looking into other things. I've always been a reader. I love information. I hate reading books per se, like stories, but I love reading information. So when I was younger, one of the things that I really found interesting, I've always been into like archaeology and the pyramids and things like that, and the kind of outside theories on all that stuff. I've always looked at the extracurricular theories, I call them. So I remember when I was a kid, back in the 70s, they did some studies with pyramids, and they would build a little pyramid frame out of plexiglass, and they would put an orange inside that pyramid, and they would put one on the counter outside that pyramid, and the one on the outside of the pyramid would always rot faster, right? So they were, their idea was that the shape of the pyramid somehow is, drawing some kind of natural energy either up out of the earth or out of the biosphere. And so that was where my thought process first went, was, okay, so this is a high energy area. Now you have these like TP pyramid type structures, shaped structures being built. So, then it leads to, well, why would they do that? Why would they want to try to pull energy, And then you're thinking crazy shit or these like recharging stations. And then you get into the crazy thoughts, So that's where like one question leads to the next and leads to the next. Next thing you know, they're like interdimensional and who knows? Like I said, I don't know, man. And I'm not scoffing at those ideas. I really not.
I'm with you.
It's easy to go there. You know what I mean? Your data doesn't serve my agenda.
I love it. That's so typical.
That is so, yeah.
Right
across the board, man.
There, so
yeah.
Hey,
so
wait, Randy said caught one. Did he put one in the headlock or something?
Yeah. Claw. You gotta get the claw.
Randy's gonna be the guy.
What happened was it caught me, and it caught me, and we were, sounded better like we caught it. Now, what he's talking about is, we've been watching these things on thermal consistently, and for the longest time we didn't push forward. We would just be okay with the distance that they were okay with, and we would watch them and then look at the video, and we're looking at how they're acting at different times. And I think everybody that knows us knows that when we film these things on thermal, we put our backs to them. Randy's setup allows us to film.
I was watching that.
And look at a screen while we're filming behind us, and it's a great tactic because like we have witnessed this over and over and over, that they can absolutely see us, and we've tested it. During that first time I took the guys out, which is in that first documentary, we were testing that already back then, and it's not anything that we talked about or that was put into the documentary, because at the time, we're just trying to keep this stuff to ourselves for the most part, what we're doing and how we're doing it. So we have our backs to them, and if you turn around and face them, when like we tested this, so we would all have our backs, I would turn and boom, they would drop like super fast, just super fast. I'll just leave it at that. I don't want to get stupid with big words, but so, and we found that if we're facing them and they get caught out at night, that they freeze, right? So we'll be sitting there facing them, watching them on the thermal, and they will move so slow, dropping, that you don't even realize they're dropping until the head's half gone. So there's and that right there immediately told us that one of two things: either they think that we can see them, or they're not sure if we can see them, right? So they're taking precaution by moving slow because we're facing them. And if we're not facing them, then we turn, they're gone, boom, before we can even get around, just like superhuman speed. But it also told us that they can absolutely see us from a distance at night, because they're reacting to one of us turning around and facing them.
Yeah, because that one you guys were filming in the thermal, and y'all's backs were to it, and it was pretty far out there for the most part. It was far enough. I mean, if I was out there, I wouldn't be able to tell if you guys were turning around looking at me or not.
Right.
Yeah, man, that thing was just like,
and we have all that same behavior over and over and over.
Pretty amazing.
And we've got it closer, of course, now, and
then you went and followed up, and you stood in its place. I mean, you were a little bit off from where it was, just a little bit, but you could see where. Oh, I mean, I could tell that you were a human. Your head to your shoulders, how bright white and crisp it was.
Right.
So I mean, that thing had to have been what? How big? I mean,
man, we always just kind of figured it was about my size, maybe a little smaller.
Maybe.
Like we're pretty convinced it was one of the Juvies, and that seems to be the case every single time. One of the 10 theories regarding electromagnetic resonances. Yeah, there's all kinds of possibilities. I looked into infrasound for a while. My father was infrasound sensitive, and so when I first started finding these things, it's just like that sense of being watched. You guys have felt that, I'm sure. Most people have, but mine is like super heightened when I'm out there, and when these things would be around, I would pick. It's like I could sense that they were around. It is. I don't even know how to describe it, man. But I just call it the vibe. And when I was trying to figure out why I was feeling this, I've got a video called The Crawler, and what I didn't put in that video is I had a camera guy there with me, and before I filmed that, I stopped and was looking into the woods. We were actually going down this hill, and I stopped and looked to the south into the woods, and he stopped, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm getting the vibe, like there's one out there." And anyway, long story short, we had a conversation about it, turned on the cameras, went down the hill and kept the cameras facing the south, and got a shot of one. So we've proven that you can pick up on these things, just for whatever reason or how it's happening. But my thought was possibly that, and it was because of everybody's infrasound theories that they discuss. I thought, well, my dad was infrasound sensitive, very. He was one of that 1% of the population. So I thought, well, maybe I can pick up on that too, and maybe that's why I'm, getting those feelings when these things are around. At one point, I was going to go to Kansas City and have myself tested to see if I was picking up on infrasound, and the next step was we were looking at building a microphone that would pick up infrasound, and we were going to build a device that would alert us and go off when it picked up infrasound, and then we would be able to record it, take it to the recording studio, up pitch that infrasound into our hearing spectrum, and be able to hear what was happening, what we were missing, right? So that was my whole scope and my whole idea, looking into infrasound, and all this other stuff took off and started happening. So I just kind of stopped in the midst of, in the middle of that. Didn't get to move forward on it because we're too busy trying to just get close to them. Like, that just seems more important to us at this point.
Ooh, someone's got a good question after this dude right here.
Yeah, man, if you get that vibe, it's just like the gut feeling that some people get. You get that gut feeling, man. You want to follow that gut feeling. You're not getting it for no reason. Have you tried to see if they can see IR, like shining IR? So throughout this process, I mentioned that when I'm approaching these things and I'm not using cameras, I'm not using flashlights, Randy is leading me out using the thermal, right? So he's talking to me, telling me where to go, when to stop, where to turn, all that good stuff. So we don't use trail cams in the 400 for a lot of reasons. We do believe that it's very possible that they can see the IR light. We don't have proof of that, and we haven't tried getting proof of that because. So when I approach these things, I don't use the flashlight. I have been taking a small camera in my hand out with me to get them used to seeing that camera in my hand, right? So this camera is I've got the new Cyanox camera. I've got an IR flashlight that I bought to enhance its ability, basically. And the next time I approach, those will be in my hand, and if the time is right, at some point I'm going to turn it on and I'm going to film, and we are going to know immediately whether or not they can see IR light, because as soon as I turn it on, they're either going to react or they're not. And that's one of the reasons that we don't use trail cameras. It's one of the reasons we haven't used night vision. We don't. We'll know when it happens. We'll know when it happens. As soon as I turn on that camera or that IR light, they're either going to react or they're not, and we'll immediately know whether they can see it or not. I mean, it's just that simple because we haven't used them purposely. Yeah. So that was a good outing. We had several thermals we caught that night, and we did catch a belly crawler thermal, probably about 200 yards from us, maybe, just up this little ravine, and we had one. It was on this little flat area, and it was on its belly, and it was facing us, so you could see the shoulders and the head. And we watched this thing stick its arms out sideways and then pull itself sideways. So its arms would go out, and then it would pull sideways, slide itself sideways. Arms go out, pull itself sideways. Pretty cool. This is pretty fascinating to watch out there, And of course, one of the problems that we've had with thermal video is that the download rate is not, you don't get what you're seeing in real time, because of the download rates. And so that's been a big part of one of the things that we're trying to fix, which is why we're going towards the Thors, the ATNs, because of that download rate, man. Like, you're going to get way better video.
Hey, Shane,
we've got quite a few thermals, actually. Just none of them are, superb. But we're just going through a process, man. We're not trying to blow everybody's minds and shit.
Yeah.
Put out the best stuff. We're following our gut and our instinct on what we're doing and how we're doing it. And our hope is that in due time, it'll be easy to go out and do it over and over and over, That's what it's going to take. Either somebody's going to have to bring in a body, right? Or somebody's going to have to be able to get close to these things on a consistent basis and show raw video of these things from 10 foot away over and over and over and over, And even then, there's going to be people that are going to say, "Oh, somebody in a suit or whatever," But the hope is to get it going at night and then switch up our, so we kind of allow these things to happen when they come in and kind of dictate it, and at some point, once we're able to do this over and over, I want to slowly start making these interaction times early in the morning as the sun's coming up, because originally that's when all the interaction was happening, because I would go out there and be there at sun up or just before sun up and start hiking, down into the dark. So you're getting all that early morning kind of darkness and shadows and stuff, and they can still hide well and all that good stuff, but you have some light, So that's the hope, is to start it at night and slowly move that witching hour on them to early morning, only give them the opportunity to interact in the early morning times. So we'll see.
Yeah.
It's a lot of fun thought, but going through with it all is the hard part, I guess.
Patience and persistence.
Yeah,
for sure. Because I mean, we've done similar. We've been pretty patient. And
you have to be, man. Everybody wants that sudden fix,
I know, and a lot of folks think that you just go out there and it's like this plethora of shit for you to unwrap and go, "Look what I got for Christmas."
Right.
I got me a footprint and some hair, and it's not like that at all.
Yeah.
At all. Like zero.
Yeah.
It's like you might get a tick on your nuts. That's what might happen.
The highlight of your
week. I dip mine in oil before I leave.
There you go.
Peppermint oil.
A couple things here. Of course, he's referencing our state representative Justin Humphrey that was on our show a couple months back about the killing Bigfoot bill and things like that. That's now been changed to capture. Which we all know what that bill is. I mean, that's a tourism tactic. It's not anything that's going to
it sure
be
is
a law or anything like that. I know people have just been making such a big hoopla about this thing, but Justin has done exactly what he wanted to do by proposing this bill, and he's drawn attention to a area of Oklahoma that needs tourism, right? And so he got that part of the state, which is a very remote area. He's got it national coverage, and now there's people that want to go to Southeast Oklahoma to look for Bigfoot. So, I mean, people are hating on the guy because they're saying, "Oh, he's going to get a bunch of people killed." I think people missed the big picture with what he was going for that. But that also leads me into my question to you, Shane: is will Randy and yourself be back in Honubby this fall?
There's a good chance of it. Randy loves going down there. I've been down with Randy twice now, and both times we had activity up on this ridge where he camps. The last time we were there, and everything that I talk about and say I have on video. So, at some point, people can say bullshit all they want, and I'm cool with that. You can call me a liar, you can tell me I'm full of shit. But at some point, they're going to have to eat crow, because it will all come out at some point. But that last time we were down there, man, Randy had had his mic and stuff set up in the perfect place. We had some just awesome rock throws. We had we figured out where the rocks were being thrown from. We got on tracks. I tracked this thing all the way down this ravine, this huge ravine, and coincidentally, where this thing came through, I take Randy over to show him this trackway that I'm on, right? And it's this is leaves, and this is in the woods, right?
Yeah.
So I start showing him, and we go down as we're passing this tree. He goes, "Well, that's right where my camera was when I filmed one down here years ago." So literally this thing took the same exact path that it took like 5, 6, 7 years ago when Randy filmed one with a camera from the campsite. Took the same exact path to come over and throw rocks, around our camp that evening from across the road. And it was pretty amazing. Gary, that was when we met up with Gary down there.
I think
And
I may have met you that trip, just at the conference, because I remember running into Randy and just shaking a few hands, and I remember Gary was there, so I think I may have briefly.
I met a few people down there too. Man, I met
I
Hill.
had a huge beard, kind of like this fella right here, maybe not that long, but I did add a huge beard, and of course, I mean, I just look a little different, but I remember
It's awesome down there, man. Randy's always excited to go down there, if we have the opportunity, and like he doesn't need me to go down. Randy he loves going out in those places by himself, man. That's been his MO for years. I've been lucky enough to attract Randy into what I'm doing, and and he's fortunately taken me out.
Randy has those solo trip things down though, doesn't he?
I mean, yeah, man. Yeah, he'll go out in the middle of nowhere for months. No cares given. He enjoys the isolation, I think.
Yeah, he brings up a good point about someone to kill one of these people just to prove they're real.
And that's kind of our thing, man.
Yeah, we're humans. Yeah, I mean, someone's probably going to do it. I mean, and it's not going to come back on, Representative Humphrey. I mean, there's large groups of people. That's their sole purpose, to track one of these down and kill it. So
hell, dude, when we're out there camping and shit during hunting season, sometimes we can get shot easily.
Yeah. I mean, human error, But I know I just hate that people.
But I know what he's saying, like a convergence of people, like wanting to, how some people are. Like, so they just get off the couch like after 10 years.
Here's something we can discuss and talk about, man, that is not being discussed much that I've heard of, but Randy slipped me a paper on some genetics that have been happening with the Denisovans, and they're finding that we all have Denisovan genetics in us and Neanderthal both, right? So now they've been able to go through the Denisovan genetics, and they're finding one of the main markers that we got from the Denisovans was brain fart, was autism, was the autism marker. So now they're looking at Denisovans and wondering if they were possibly hypersensitive, right? Because of this autism genetics that they have. They're wondering if they help create the calendars, possibly mathematics, possibly astronomy. People with autism generally have one thing that they're really good at. Like a common thing is calendar counting. A lot of people are autistic and calendar count, like boom. So now they're looking at all these different ideas, and possibilities with just through seeing these new genetics, these new genes and stuff. So that just makes me think, to me, my idea of Sasquatch is that it is possibly an ancient hominin or hominid that has made it, right? And were they there before us or after? Who knows? I don't know. But if that's what they are, and they live in the woods, why wouldn't they naturally be hypersensitive, first of all, right? Because they live in the woods. So that's going to make, you know how it is, man. You go out in the woods for a week and all your senses kind of tune in differently.
Man, just even after like a 3-day weekend, like, and like you're leaving, you're like, damn, I felt like I just got acclimated.
Yeah. It's leaving that concrete jungle, man. You don't realize how your senses are being just, pushed and pulled at constantly. You get out in the woods and your senses get a chance to relax and kind of tune, And so, just the idea of these Denisovans being hypersensitive, and then you take Sasquatch that could possibly be an ancient hominid also, and it lives in the woods and stays the hell away from us at all, if at all possible. the idea that they may be hypersensitive would almost to me be just a positive. Like I don't even have to put any thought behind it. I don't even wonder. I just assume that they're hypersensitive, most likely, So you take that into account, and people are always like, well, man, how come you can't sneak up on them? How come they always know you're there? Well, anything that's hypersensitive, man, it's hard to sneak up on animals that don't have the cognitive awareness of themselves like we do, and they're hard to sneak up on. So you take something that possibly is more like us and is hypersensitive also. You know how hard that's going to be to get onto those and get close to them. What I mean. Just the odds aren't good.
What you got, Paul?
Yeah, I'd like to see this. So
if you want to send it to me through Messenger, I'll play it while we're on here.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, we're always looking and reading into stuff like that just to maybe get an idea of where things could go, where they could lead.
And I find all those things like that interesting as hell. I mean,
yeah.
We're already looking for something that's just unbelievable, right? I mean, you're going to have to get into some unbelievable reading and so on and so forth.
Yeah, that's a good point he's making.
Mm-hmm.
Autism could have made somebody special back then, for all we know.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, for all we know, these there are kings of Egypt that weren't shaped necessarily like the average human. So who knows if some of these kings in the past were autistic and smart and gifted because of it, and were put in places of high respect because they did have knowledge of things that other people didn't. You would back then, if somebody could calendar count, you would think a king is going to take that guy and he's going to use him. You know what I mean? Right. Yeah. So they're gonna get some kind of prestige out of being able to do that. Whereas nowadays, people look down on autistic people at times. It's like a bad thing. And hell, for all we know, autism could have been a special thing back then.
Very well could.
Who knows? It's all conjecture, right?
It's all part of the mystery, though. That's for sure. So
I think he's loading it up. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, this is the kind of stuff that Randy, when we're out in the field, Randy comes up with things like this, because we found a lot of patterns in the things that happen. And so we try to do everything in patterns as much as we can, the same things, be consistent. And so we've done things like that, playing dominoes and leave camp and leave the dominoes out, with the hopes that the patterns on the dominoes would attract them if they came into camp while we were gone, So things like that, man. There's there's a lot of thought into the processes that we're testing and going through, and a lot of it is just simple things like that. You can pull some ideas and stuff if you were to get them to do something like that.
Yeah, Randy definitely thinks outside the box on some things.
Oh,
he gave me a great idea on a trail camera for our Squatch Creek area, and as soon as he said it, I felt like the biggest idiot. You know what I mean?
I know. I was like, why in the hell have we not?
Yeah, he does that. He does that to me all the time.
3 years. Yeah, I was like, this dude's never even been there. I just described it to him. He tells me this, and I'm like, man, I'm an idiot.
Man, so we got
of course, we got this great picture that we thought, was the holy grail of Bigfoot, and then
oh my God, we were.
I haven't been so excited in a long time.
I know. That Saturday was very exciting. I was like, oh my God, what are we gonna do?
Yeah, like
I was like, we have to figure this out. We have to test the shit out of this.
So we go out there at the exact same time of day, a week or two later, and we figure out it was.
I think it was the next weekend, dude. We were there.
Yeah, it was most likely a human.
Same time, same sunset, same season. Like we were.
We were waiting on the clock. We're like, all right, right now, let's start taking
and go.
And then we start lining them up, and we're just like, you gotta be kidding me. Okay, it's probably a human. But when we first seen it, it looked so big, like the perspective of the shadow on the ground. made you think this thing was huge. Like, this thing's got to be 10 foot tall. It's huge. It's massive. It's like 5 foot wide. This is it. We got him.
Oh my
And we
God.
get out there and start taking photos. And we're like, man, this thing's maybe 1.5 feet wide. It might be 5 foot tall. You know, it's like the angle was so off, you know, and
We did a
felt
few tests, and Brian showed us the money shot, and he's like,
like,
human.
it ain't it, boys.
Damn.
Yeah, that's it. It seems to be part of it, man. That's kind of the way it works. You know how many times we've been in a situation that where we were getting excited, adrenaline pumping, and then all of a sudden then you're just let down. It's like somebody hangs you over the edge of a cliff, and they reach down to give you their hand to pull you up, and then they pull it away as you reach for it.
Brian's like, it's human, man. I'm like, are you sure, man?
Please no.
Yeah,
Please
it's one of those things though that like I was proud in the fact that we did our due diligence and
we followed through,
like
sir.
throw it out there and say, look at this, we got a shadow of Sasquatch standing on our bridge.
Dude, Shane, I swear to God, bro. Like I took you can Google search Bigfoot silhouette. The first one that popped up, I took it, I superimposed it right where that shot was. It was on the freaking money, man.
Yeah, it was so crazy. You probably have it, don't you, Shane?
Yeah, I think I do.
And we were so pumped though because we were just like, oh my God, Randy gave us this great idea, and this thing just paid dividends off. We're
like, what else does Randy know?
Dude, Randy is full of ideas, man.
Yeah.
Every time we talk, he has new ideas. Like I'm 100% truth, man. Every single time we talk, there's at least one new idea. Shane, I've been thinking about this, and I always know I'm fixing to hear something good. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It was like I just had like maybe a 30-minute conversation with him one night, and it was just he said it so matter of fact, and I was just like, man, I'm an idiot. Like, all right, man, I'm gonna try that. And I did, and like, we got that photo, and it was, oh man, I was so excited. But like I said, we did our work. We went back. We did what we knew we had to do. We didn't just throw it out there. Yeah, look at this Bigfoot, and so I was proud of us as a team to go out there and say, okay, it's not what we thought,
Yeah.
Unfortunately, but
yeah, we had a moment like that. It took us about 2.5, 3 weeks to finally, be okay with the idea that we were completely wrong on what had happened and what we thought was happening. But it's good that you guys do that though. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because when it comes down to it, if you don't, somebody else will, So,
yeah. And,
let's see if I
and you can get crucified in this community so quickly. You know what I mean by something like that. So
yeah. And that's so what he's saying is basically what I was alluding to is that Denisovans, that autistic marker, may have they may have not have acted different. It may not have changed how they acted. They just may have had that marker and were able to utilize it, within their brain function and whatnot, and just been smarter than everybody else. At least it would seem that way to them,
Share my screen, dude. I'm still looking at it right now, going, I can see why we thought that. I could totally see that.
I want to see it. I want to see it.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Get this up real quick.
God, I remember just being so excited when I sent.
Okay, so here we go. We're in Photoshop, right? And this is our actual picture. So see, you got like this,
Oh, that's a Bigfoot for sure.
Yeah, right. Yes,
yeah. Oh yeah.
So here's the one I super.
Who wouldn't be excited? Yeah. Oh man, yeah.
You don't even need a red circle for that, right?
This is the one I superimposed right here in the blue. See, here's the one I superimposed. This is a regular Bigfoot silhouette. And I put it, dude, I literally scaled it and put it in perspective to what we have going on here. And I was like, oh my God.
Yeah, at this point, we're sold. We're like,
okay, we got to test this shit out now. And we did. We did good, Brian.
Yeah, we did.
That, bro.
You did. Hey, man, I got a lot of respect for people who take the time to try to debunk themselves.
Thank you.
And everybody should, and I know not everybody has the capability to. There's been times where I've caught some stuff and I was never able to get in the exact same spot, and that was one of the things that, like, people don't realize when, like, with the stuff that we're doing, we're going to make mistakes because what's happening is not supposed to be happening. You know what I mean? The excitement of the situation, you're going to make mistakes. Like the first time I approached the younger juvie when Dan was there, the next day we go back and we didn't freaking mark where the camera was. So that we had the exact same perspective. You know, we got close, and it was the same thing with the thermals. The very first thermals we got, we didn't mark exactly where the camera was, so this perspective was a little different. And it's so hard to remember that kind of shit when you're out there and in the moment, and this crazy stuff is happening. You know, and your adrenaline's pumping, and it's like people just expect you to, go out and you got to do everything perfect, man. It just doesn't happen like that when you're dealing with something that's not even supposed to be real. I mean, come on.
Right.
And we're humans.
Dude, I get so excited. I don't even know what to do with myself.
He's asking if there was a photo close at the same time. Yeah, there was.
Yeah, there was a photo taken directly after that time too.
Yeah, within a minute, I believe. So, yeah, we had plenty of photos before and after.
Yeah,
it was there and it wasn't.
It was thorough, man. I mean, as soon as Brian pulled the card out of there after standing there in the exact same spot where the sun was shining exactly the way it was.
Yeah,
I just kind of moving and it picking up shots. It was exactly.
I stayed there and waited while these guys were looking around. I was just looking at the clock, like, okay, as soon as this thing rolls around to this time,
that's how dedicated Brian is. He will wait.
As soon as it hit that time, I just started taking photos, and I loaded them up and did side by side, and I was just like, I wanted to cry, honestly.
But Shane, like first sight, dude, tell me that doesn't look like a hulking type of figure.
For sure. Absolutely. Absolutely.
What is that?
If me and Randy got that, I would have been calling Randy, dude, wait till you see this. For sure. Absolutely.
That's what Brian did. Brian just he sent it to me. He's like, just look at the picture I sent you. I was like, all right, whatever. I'm looking at it. What the hell? He's like, I know.
Yeah. I was like, we got him, dude. We got him.
Let's go back to step 0.
Yeah.
Figuring this out.
Oh, wow. It was fun.
It was man. It was
a great
set the challenge, right?
Yeah.
Right.
So we learned a lot.
Yeah, we're it's the same thing for us, man. We've had moments where, we've been wrong for sure. But like I said, if you're trying to debunk your own stuff, man, that's a good sign, and everybody should. You got to step away from your own evidence, take your own emotional attachment away from it, and that can be really hard with what we're doing. We're chasing something that's not even supposed to be real, and you get some evidence, and it's fucking exciting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And pulling yourself away from that and just allowing it to be evidence with no attachment is tough sometimes. And sometimes it takes a little time to get through that process and do it even,
Yeah. Oh yeah, no doubt.
So yeah, it's part of it. I originally back in 2013 got onto a group and spent a couple years chasing that group, and then did some stupid stuff. Long story short, it ended, and they moved from that particular area, and I'm pretty positive I've relocated them now. And
that's exciting.
Yeah, so this is from all the way back then, and it's on property that I'm allowed to get into. Basically, it's private property. That's the other great thing about it, is it's all private property.
Man, that's a score right there.
And it's just literally just 5 miles away from the old area, actually. So, and the creek actually leads to it. It runs out of my old area. So that's another thing that I'm looking forward to, and I don't really have the time to get too involved in that situation. But I've got a buddy that lives out near the location, and his property butts up to the property, and and we've got to know some of the other people that own the properties around it, and so with any luck, sometime this summer we're going to get out there too. We've already got a plan to go out into a particular hollow, and actually, so the orbs were brought up earlier. So this holler where things are happening now and where they've been seen. There's an old man that lives up at the end of this holler, at the high point of it where it starts. And he's coon hunted that holler for, you know, a large portion of his adult life. And 20 years ago, and you know, he's old and retired. I believe he's in his 60s, late 60s. But like 20 years ago, he got chased out of this holler by a green orb. So, and he never went back into this holler. And it goes down through like some properties, basically come down into this holler and stop. You know, so he lives up the end of the holler, and everybody used to hunt it back then, I guess. But yeah, he said he got chased out of that holler by a green orb and never went back to that holler again.
Yeah.
And that's where these things are, you know. So there again, you have orbs and Sasquatch.
Weird background noise coming in. I don't know if you guys hear that or not.
Yeah, is that from me?
No, that right there, that's downstairs. Someone's got the ninja going. They're making a smoothie. They'll quit making a smoothie down there. You're interrupting the show.
That sounds sweet and tasty.
Man, no invite on that smoothie there?
Maybe it's a margarita.
Right?
Never know.
Never know. 7 and 7 always goes good in the smoothie.
Ooh. This is
a little Sprite and 7.
Yeah. Yeah, right. That's a little pick you up.
Yeah. It's almost like Orange Julius, but better.
Orange Julius. I ain't heard that forever. Old school here in Oklahoma. So,
hey man, so these tracks you guys are pulling, you getting some pretty good detail on those things, because it looks like they're stepping, you know, near waterways and.
Oh yeah, yeah, they're in mud. Yeah, they're in mud. We have some that have a really, really good detail, man. We have some you can see the toenails. Wow. We have some steps where they've stepped and slid. Yeah, some of them are super detailed, man. It's pretty wild. One of them I think is showing the separation of the foot where the pad actually starts on the foot, and it's on one of the juvenile tracks. I've also got that on one of the adult tracks that I have too, where it looks like it could be where the pad starts on the foot, and that's one of the things that really interested me when it came to the tracks, man, was these pads on their feet. Like, how tough are they? They got to be tough as hell. When we got, I've got trackways where we quit counting at 50 tracks. Like, I just quit following and focus on the best ones that are in the immediate area. You know, they're basically collecting mussels. When this waterway goes down, they go down to this little spot where this creek dumps, and they collect mussels. So this happens a certain time every year, usually July or August, you know, early August it happens. And so I just make sure I'm out there quite a bit during July and August, and it's like literally that easy. And it's stupid. It's so easy. I mean, you know, we get their tracks in other parts of the property too, but that's where we get the good ones, you know, that we can cast and get some really good detail. It's like it was year before last, it was stupid. We had like tracks on top of tracks. Like, we would come back we'd come back the next week, and the tracks that we didn't cast would still be there, and there would be new tracks, you know, walking on top of those tracks or through those tracks. It was just,
so they are very habitual, I guess.
Oh yeah, man, yeah. And for several years, we've had the thought of you know, just waiting out there at certain times all night long. You know, ghillie suits, crawling up underneath the tree and just hanging tight and hoping that they show up that night and being able to film that on thermal. You know, that'd be great, but we're lazy, so.
That takes a lot of energy, man, to do something.
Right. And a lot of patience.
We absolutely were going to do all this stuff. Like, we had all these plans and whatnot. But when these things started coming in around camp, it's like, why waste our time and go do all that? Like, they're coming into us now. So
they're wearing the ghillie suits.
Yeah, all this crazy fun stuff that we were coming up with, we never really got to try because we don't need to. And it's kind of like a waste of time and energy now and money, you know. So, yeah, dude, it worked
out for you guys then, pretty good then on that.
So far, I mean,
So far.
that's what sucks. Is me and Randy talk about this all the time. At any given point, this could just stop, and
Yes.
we would have no idea why. We would just be left with what has happened, and like we purposely haven't been filming these close up encounters as to try to get them used to the situation and this happening, and then we introduce cameras at a later date. And we're always like, just before we get to introduce the cameras, everything's going to stop, for whatever reason, or they're going to disappear and we'll never see them again, or like that's how the luck runs sometimes, So every year when summer rolls back around, because I slack off.
You're never guaranteed. Yeah.
I hate the cold, so last year before last, I was out a lot and kept track of them as best I could during the winter and their patterns and stuff. But when everything changed, it just becomes now we go out, we set up camp, and we pretty much hang tight at camp. We don't have to do nothing, just wait, be patient.
Did you have similar patterns in the wintertime with these guys, or?
No, actually, the places where they would come through on the property changed. Basically, if you just think about, the patterns of Mother Nature, in the summer, they can go anywhere out there because it's thick, super thick, and wintertime, everything thins out. So they have to be a little more methodical on, going from one point to the other. And, so yeah, I did notice a difference in that. I noticed a major difference on areas where they would walk through. Like it's almost like they were purposely trying to walk through rocky areas versus soft areas that were wet due to snow and rain or whatever. It's almost like if they can avoid leaving a track, they will purposely. So it's what it seems like. It sounds crazy to even think that, but it does. The thought has crossed my mind at times.
I mean, I've even noticed that myself. Like, it's like when we first started looking for these things, and I was joining these guys, I was like, we're looking for a monster in the woods, right? Like this mythical monster. And then we started coming across the tracks, and I kind of saw that divergent toe, and I was like, damn, is this thing it's kind of like an ape, maybe. Maybe it's like an ape. I don't know. And then as you see it stepping off onto the bank and then actually taking the time to go up where it's harder and walk a few more steps and then go across the creek, made me think this damn thing is smart. It's not quite leaving all the squishy tracks it wants to down this line that it could. It's actually coming up and then going that way.
Yeah. We found that 2 years ago. It was just like every weekend I would go out and there would be new tracks, and it was like it's ridiculous. I was taking my kids out, and I would send my two teenagers. I'd be like, "All right, go over there and look for new tracks, Dad. Come on, come over." It was that simple. But we were seeing the same thing as far as like when they would come out into this area. At one point, when we first were finding their tracks, they were coming out through an area. They'd come right out of the woods, right into mud, cross over and out into this little peninsula. And then it's almost like after seeing us pick up on their tracks, they were trying to leave less. So they would take the time to walk around this one area and come out, and these rocks would come out to a point, and then it would turn to mud, and they would follow that rocky point all the way out and then diverge off into the mud, So, I mean, and I've got video of the adult tracks, the 15-inch tracks, going through the mud and walking right out into the water, and you can see 6-7 tracks going out into the water, because the water just happened to be clear that day.
Mm-hmm.
And this is in like in late October, when nobody with 15-inch feet would be walking around.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah,
like here, it's typically pretty chilly in October. It's already going into the cold season, and we've got a lot of like just crazy things. I was finding their scat for a while, and like we didn't even know there were pawpaw trees on the property, and we started finding their scat with pawpaw seeds in them. So this happened. Started in late July was the first time I found the scat with the pawpaw seeds. We ended up locating the pawpaw trees, which were like 1,000 yards from camp, actually. And I found pawpaw seeds in their scat all the way through late December. So one of two things: either they were saving the seeds, but they weren't saving the seeds to eat them because they weren't chewed up; they were whole seeds, which tells me. And this is one of the reasons me and Dan got into a big discussion about this, because it kind of bewildered him that we would find scat with pawpaw seeds, whole pawpaw seeds, and the pawpaws are gone by October. They're gone. If they haven't dropped and ripened by the first freeze, they'll do it in a matter of days and drop off, and so here we are in the middle of December, and I find scat with whole pawpaw seeds in it. So the only conclusion we could come up with is that they're possibly
saving them.
Pawpaws. Yeah, they're somehow storing them, which was, we've got a bunch of stuff
Very
like that in evidence that shows that they're doing things that we're not necessarily expecting if you think they're an ape. And it points towards these things being, animals will save food, they'll bury food and come back and get it. So it's not crazy to think that, but we're also talking about a fruit, right? That would have to be saved and stored somehow, and most likely kept cold to last, so that then you start thinking, where are they going to store this stuff? Are they storing it in caves? Are they storing it? There's a lot of springs around this property. Are they using springs? Maybe digging off of springs and having little areas where they could store stuff. Who knows, man? It just brought up a whole new idea, a whole new thought process to get into of storing food. And so we've got some things like that, man, that are just, it's nothing you can prove, but it makes you go, it really makes you go, wow, that's crazy. That's odd, And where these piles of scat were being left were one of them was, I drive at that point in time. I was driving I got a Nissan Murano that I typically drive, and I was driving it about halfway down into the property. It's as far as I could go in it, and then I would park it and hike the rest of the way in, and they would leave this scat by my vehicle, behind it or in front of it.
Well, this is what I think.
Or we have back then I had a pattern hike. I had 3 different patterns of hikes out there that I would do, and they were leaving these piles of scat on my hikes, basically. It's like they were leaving me to find. And I went through the whole bait station ordeal. I was doing my bait station quite differently than other people, and so that I knew at least I was able to do away with the possibilities of what was getting into the bait station. So we would, or I would dig a hole, and I would take 2 large flat rocks, stack them on top of each other, and put them next to the hole. And that's where I would leave my stuff starting out. And then I would introduce a Tupperware bowl, and put it in the hole, right? And then eventually I would leave something inside that clear Tupperware, and I'd pull the rocks over halfway on top of it. And then eventually, as things are being taken and left, I would not leave anything out in the open. I would put my stuff in the Tupperware, put the big flat, and when I say flat rocks, I'm talking big flat rocks. Like both of them. At one point, I had 3, and it was like you're to get them up.
Yeah.
So all this stuff is buried under these rocks. So if an animal was to try to get to them, even a bear's going to leave marks where it's trying to pull these rocks over and move them, and it's going to try to dig underneath them. And so, and that's not what was happening. They would be moved, the things would be taken out, and eventually at the end, when I quit doing it eventually, but at the end, they were literally closing everything back up and putting the rocks back on top.
Dang.
Like I took the guys out one time, and some beads that I had left like a couple months prior were back, but they were down inside, so I show up I had a couple of guys from the team there, and I was like, oh, it doesn't look like they hit it. And I opened it up, and everything was gone. And these beads that disappeared, months prior were there inside.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Surprise.
Right. So like Chris Reinhardt, we put out a video. He's doing it the same way now. He's kind of utilized a lot of our tactics that we kind of got going and figured out things that were working. He's utilized up there, so he's got a pretty good situation going out there, and but he's focused on his stuff now, which is fine and good, and we're just trekking on, man. Trying to get the footage of all footage, but
I know, right?
It's gonna be me handing them a Snickers bar,
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Dude, like, what animal would not like a Snickers?
I know, right?
You know what I mean? Caramel,
universal
peanut.
food.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Chocolate, the chocolatey, peanutty, caramelly goodness.
Nougat. Don't forget
And
about
some
that
nougat. Right.
Dang, I gotta go to the store real quick. I need to go get me a Snicker. I'm like feeling it right now. So
See, you see what I'm saying? That's exactly it, man.
Animal instinct in me wanting that Snicker. So
yeah, and then there's gonna be people that are like, "Why'd you give it a Snickers? That's man-made food. You're gonna make them sick."
Yeah, you're gonna kill him.
Stephen Hill wants to see you feed one a Snickers.
That's the goal, man.
Everybody would want to see that. So.
That's the goal.
That's going to be it, man.
I never
10 years down the road. 10 years down the road.
I never get to live it, but I promise you, if I get in a situation, I'm trying at some point.
Like, you remember that guy that gave that Bigfoot a Snicker and then it ripped his head off right after?
Yeah.
Y'all remember that guy?
Remember him? He's a legend, but man, what a way to go.
Rest in peace, Shane.
Or you mean the guy with no arm?
Yeah.
He took his whole arm instead of the Snickers.
It ripped his arm off and hit him in the head with it. It was crazy.
Yeah, but I'm
sitting
back like, but did I die?
Yeah, exactly. And there's Randy up there just filming it. You know what I mean? Like,
I'm bleeding out. I got it, Shane, I got it.
Randy's like, move in closer. I know he's eating your head off, but just keep on moving in closer.
Dedicated to the cause.
But really, when it's all said and done, the goal is, me and Randy this year are going to be doing this a lot by ourselves, just the two of us. So, which typically heightens the process and allows things to get a little crazier, because me and Randy are both real calm and collected, man, no freaking out, and we just roll with the situation and be as safe as we can. But we're also, like, me and Randy are pretty confident that nothing bad is going to happen. Like, I wouldn't be walking out in doing this if I thought there was any chance that I was going to get attacked. When we got samurai chatter, that made me second guess myself. But after being in that situation, I don't feel like it was. Like, in the moment, I didn't even think about the fact that I'd done some samurai chatter earlier that night.
Mm-hmm.
So for all I know, it could have just been mocking me. I don't know.
Okay, man, you're in my neighborhood.
Right. You're right.
Talking about Willis.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So it's just gonna come down to the same old shit. Being very patient and kind of letting them dictate what happens and how far we're able to push. And sometimes we got to push a little extra to move things forward. But the key is it just boils down to not pushing too hard, not overdoing it, crossing that line that we've kind of. That's the hard part. There's a line in the sand, and it's like clear.
Mm-hmm.
The line is clear. We don't know exactly where it is. We're trying to find that son of a bitch so we don't step over it. But you're always trying to walk.
Don't call me out there. I'll step right on it.
Right. That's what happened to me previously. So we're trying to push the limits as best we can without ruining the situation.
Yeah. You got to find that happy medium there where we find it.
I think you guys are doing a pretty damn good job, man. I mean,
I do too. I like the stuff you guys are doing, man.
Very unique situation. It's just, man, it's lining up for you guys, and that's awesome.
And you're out there, you know what I mean? You're out there putting the work in, and that's a big thing, So
I like to feel like it's a unique situation, but man, I'm pretty confident that there's other people out there that are getting close to them. And probably just not talking about it. They're not into the Bigfoot community and the scene and stuff, And you hear the stories, and when I first got into this, I thought, I can't get close to these things. How are people doing this, and 50 years of Bigfoot and stuff, and like now that we're at the point that we're at, I don't doubt some of those stories. I don't know which ones are true and which ones aren't, but I would not be surprised for some of these stories to be absolutely true, that there could be something built, over a period of time. And I think that's the key, is the period of time, and being in a situation where you can kind of try to build some trust. And, who knows? We'll see, man. Well, every time we think we're like making a big stride, we feel like we're failing in another aspect, So
Yeah.
That's the emotion. So
yeah, but the fun part is you get to get out in the woods and get away from the concrete jungle. You get to reset. You get to have some peace and
hanging with good people. So
occasionally, smell your buddy's ass or his dirty feet, and
that happens.
Shane has smelled mine many a time.
Right, I'm sure. Me and
Everywhere
Randy
I turn, man, Brian's ass or his feet are just like right in my face. I'm like, what is going on, man?
Dude, me and Randy have been in a tent, just me and him, up on this hill we call Crawler Hill, and all night long rocks are being thrown, and we're laying in this tent, for a couple of days, and at night just laying there all night long listening to things being thrown around the tent, and when some of this stuff comes out, man, if we're able to do what we hope we're gonna maybe pull off this summer, man, I think people will be pleasantly pleased to see, just like all the lead up to it, all the things that we've accomplished that we haven't really talked about, and it's nothing that proves anything necessarily, but it's like when you put all the pieces of the puzzle together, it starts to create a picture. It's one of those things.
That's exactly the analogy we use sometimes.
I quit putting stuff out on my YouTube channel, and I just don't have time to do the videos and stuff anymore, and really. And it kind of became unimportant to me, because I'm going on there and just showing just bits and pieces of things that have happened. Like I would have to spend all my time doing this to show people exactly what we're doing and the things that really are happening, and that's why I would rather see all this just come out in one ginormous piece, and maybe it ends up being 4 hours long, but at least people can start and watch the whole process all the way till we did what we were trying to do, like. That'd be cool, but is it going to happen? I don't know, man. None of this shit may never come out, because none of this stuff by itself proves anything. That's the thing. You have to show everything, and
you have to. Was it like when we were in a math class? Show your work.
Yeah,
you better show.
But, people are interested, though. People are interested. I mean, look at that one show that was on for all those years, and they never had anything. You know what I mean? But people are interested in it.
Well, I don't know about you, Shane, but like all of ours, every piece of evidence or whatever we get, we like to just share it and show it to like anybody we can that wants to see it or touch it or whatever.
We love to do that, and anybody can reach out to Randy, and Randy will throw audio at you all day long. We have tons of audio. He's got tons of audio that he's captured on his own, and then we have tons of audio from the 400.
Wow,
we quit being interested in recording knocks and stuff because we have so many rock clacks and knocks and rocks hitting around camp that it doesn't even interest us to almost to even record that stuff anymore. Because unless you're showing what's throwing the rocks, it really doesn't prove anything. Once again, it's like that catch-22. So, we gotta create a bigger picture for people so they can see more of it, see it all together, and have a better understanding of it. And then at that point, if people don't, people got something to say about it, fuck them. I don't care. Yeah. I don't care what anybody thinks. I got people close to me, and I care about them and their minds and what they think about me, and that's about it.
I hear you, dude.
I try to be cool with everybody, but also in turn, like I don't waste my time arguing online with people and stuff like that. I'm cool with people having their opinion. It doesn't affect me or my opinion. So that's why I don't dive too hard into the community too much. It's, I have people that I chat with and people I enjoy watching occasionally, and a few shows, but that's about it for in the community, man. I watch your guys. I pop in on your guys' stuff
Yeah,
sometimes.
you do pop.
Like the piece, Mark Newble. I like those guys, and of course Sasquatch Chronicles. That I went for a long time, and I just wouldn't listen to anybody else's experiences because I didn't want to contaminate my own mindset.
Man, I'm with you on that.
Yeah, it's tough. It makes it tough.
I actually listen to 0 shows.
Yeah,
And
that's how
I catch Larry and Mark every once in a while. If it's somebody I know or something like that, I want to pop on.
Larry Mark every once in a while. You know what I listen to, man? Bill Burr. That's who
I love Bill Burr.
Freaking love that guy.
I like Bill Burr a lot, man. I like his honesty.
Yeah, man, that's what I'm saying. He's like, here it is.
I enjoy honest people, man, and just because you know where you stand with them all the time.
Yeah.
Exactly. I'd rather know that somebody doesn't care for me. I'd rather know that and completely be okay with that than have somebody go to my face and talk shit, later.
Fake it through. Yeah.
Yeah. And there again, though, a lot of people don't like truth and honesty. It's like, if you ask my opinion, I'm going to give it to you. And if you don't like it, then that's on you. That's your problem.
Yeah.
If you don't want to know my opinion, don't ask it.
I've said it before. Be careful what you ask for.
Yeah.
It may not be
sure.
what you want. So,
For sure.
Oh, boy.
It is. So. Well, we've been at we've surpassed the 2-hour mark, and time flies when you're having fun. But
that's right,
man. We sure appreciate you coming on and sharing all.
Yeah, dude.
So. Anytime, man. Anytime. I've kind of quit doing this kind of stuff, but the last show you guys had, you had me laughing, and I was like, man, you guys had mentioned coming on before, and I was like, man, I want to go on to shoot the shit with these guys. They're fun.
I mean, that's the deal of our show. Was like we never wanted to make it serious. Like, it was just kind of a goofy thing. We're like, hey, let's do a show. Like, what are we going to talk about?
Let's just talk about the shit we're doing, man.
Yeah, let's talk about life. It don't even have to be Bigfoot themed. Like I got a buddy I want to get on here so bad. He's a comedian. It's going to be nothing Bigfoot related other than the fact that I'm dying to get him in the woods. You know what I mean? Because he's never done anything like that. So I want to try to get him in the woods this summer for a weekend, and then I want to do a show with him just so he could talk about his experience for his first time ever out Bigfoot.
That's cool.
Because I think it'd be a great show, and he's a comedian on top of it. So, I mean, between the three of us, I mean, I'm probably going to be hurting him. It'll laugh so hard. So it'll be a good show, and I'm going to beg him to do it this summer. So. Or I guess maybe later this spring. I don't think he'll do it when it gets.
Shane, dude, you guys are more than welcome to come on here whenever you want to, man, and share whatever, dude.
Yeah.
Like Randy too.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe me and Randy will get on sometime and kind of bounce off each other. And,
yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah.
He's fun to do that with, and you guys have talked to Randy, so you know how
Randy's a good guy.
He can go on this subject and just enlighten. He's tried so much stuff. You know what I mean? He's one of those guys.
Hey.
He's been doing it long enough, and he thinks outside the box so much, and he's tried so much stuff that it's great for a guy like me who just came into this in 2013 because I don't have to waste my time trying all the shit that he knows don't work.
Yeah.
So,
hey man, Shane, that's just the way it works, dude. Like,
right.
Like I'm linked up with these guys, and like we'd have never known each other if it wasn't for this subject matter at all. So.
Yeah, I mean, we're also far apart. So
yeah. And Randy's been a big part of of what's happened out there and what we've been able to do. Some of the things that we've gotten, they're important to us. We wouldn't have gotten without his tactics, and his ideology on how to do certain things with certain pieces of equipment and whatnot.
Yeah.
So me and Randy linking up was perfect, man, because he doesn't like being out with a lot of people, and I don't really care to. And I've learned a lot from him, and thank you, Randy.
Yeah, the mutual
Randy, like I always say a lot of good things about Randy and his mindset and stuff. And when Randy talks about me, he usually talks about my tracking because he's always amazed at he doesn't have that eye and that mindset, and that's what's so great about us is.
Mm-hmm.
Like our minds work together well because they come from different, like kind of opposite sides of the spectrum. I'm looking for the detail things that most people aren't going to see, and he's thinking outside the box, figuring out new ways to get the footage, and so we just work really well together, man. Our mindsets are at opposite ends, and they kind of meet in the middle, you know.
Yeah, and you lean on each other. That's what our group.
And,
You know?
and the great thing too about Randy is what some people don't like about him is Randy's a straightforward, honest guy. And sometimes, you know, he'll throw an idea and I won't like it. I'll tell him, and same deal, you know, like we're honest with each other. And that's what I really appreciate about working with him is he'll tell me, nah, don't do that. That's stupid. Or I've tried that. It's a waste of time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, you need
that. Yeah. And then we're always there to kind of challenge each other on data and information and stuff, you know, and we don't always agree. We don't, but we usually end up agreeing in the long run, you know, as no matter what, the data can only tell you so much.
Right.
You're just using the data to create your mindset on what's happening and what you're dealing with. And it can only lead to, you know, one main point at some point, you know, at some point it's got to all go the same place.
Yes, I agree.
That's usually what happens. We've had some times where we're like, I don't know, man. I don't know.
That was odd. Yeah. That was way out. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's not think about that one anymore. Let's just move forward. Yeah. That stuff does happen, but yeah, it's good, man. I appreciate you guys having me on. And
yeah, sure, man.
Yeah, man. Hopefully you guys come to Honubby, and I see you guys in October. So.
Oh, dude, are y'all going to Honubby?
I'm going. I lost you earlier. I was asking you about that when you had your little technical difficulties. So
me and Randy haven't talked about it and discussed it yet, but I know Randy always he loves going down there every single year.
It's pretty cool.
He's got that spot on the ridge that something always happens. So
hey, if you guys do go, I'll take you over to where I had my sighting in 2018.
Oh yeah.
So I'll take you and Randy over there. If you guys come down. It's not far from Honubby. It's about a 30-minute drive, 45-minute drive.
Like that.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I don't know. It may be an hour because it's about 30 minutes off the highway.
Cool.
So it's probably an hour east of there. But I'd be happy to take you guys in there and show you and kind of, you know, lay that out for you guys and see what you may think what was going on that day because it
was crazy.
Odd. So
would love it, man. Would love it. There seems to be a lot going on down there. Seems to be a lot going on. You know, so I'm always down. You know, I did mention I'm in Colorado. I have a fellow out here who emailed me and has a spot where these things are supposed to be very aggressive, and if you try to stay the night, they run you out. And
of course you're there. Hell yeah.
Blood charge and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So I emailed him back, and I'm hoping he gets back with me because, like, that's the shit I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, the camera is not gonna see me crapping my pants and pissing myself. You know what I mean? So I'm not worried about that. So I'm hoping and praying he gets with me and that he takes us out to this spot. He said he'd drop us off or you know, lead us there, and then we could stay.
But he wasn't staying, huh?
He will not stay. He's tried it twice and ran out. So yeah, we're hoping that he gets back with me. While I'm out here, I can, you know, have at least something crazy and wild happen.
Yeah, dude, for sure, man.
I'm a little bit of adrenaline junkie. When I was younger,
I think we all are a little bit. You gotta be. So.
Seems to be a underlying, you know, thing with most of us. So
yeah, I agree. All right, buddy. Well, we appreciate you coming on, and
man,
we'll holler at you soon, and hopefully see you even sooner. So
sounds good, man. You guys have a good night. Had a good time.
All right, buddy.
Thanks,
appreciate it.
All right,
please, brother. All right.
Well, that was fun.
Yeah, dude. Carpenter was good stuff, man. We had a Carpenter on 2 weeks ago too.
I know. That's what threw me off last time. I was like, Carpenters? That's crazy. Carpenter squared. Man, I knew that was just going to be a lot of information though. Like that guy's out there, man. He's in it, you know?
Man, his finger is on the pulse.
Exactly. Like he's not he's not armchairing it. He's not any of that. Like, I mean, the dude is in the woods.
I mean, he's out there like probably 5 times more than I can be out there.
Yeah. So. It reminds me of 2018 when I spent all that time out there. Like, man, and I need to get back to that. Like,
yeah,
I need to. Maybe this year's the year. And I got a feeling I will be given the recent circumstances.
Well, Jen's doing better with her oxygen and everything, so I'm ready to
All right.
Get into the woods myself.
I'm ready. So we got a lot of work to do. So
I know, man.
new ideas to put in place. So
That's right.
I wouldn't mind bouncing that one idea off those guys. So
Yeah. You should get a hold of Randy and Shane for
yeah,
sure on that.
we might get some pointers on where I'm headed with that. So
See, this is what you got to do, folks. You got to feed off the community of, if you can find folks
yeah,
as we are here, and help each other out.
yep, bounce some ideas off of.
That's all it is, man.
Like Randy thinks outside the box, so I may
Mhm.
come to him and say, "Hey, I'm thinking this and this," and he may just throw something at me that just makes it all click. You know what I mean? That I'm just not thinking of. So
Mhm.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, especially when you got somebody
No.
that you can trust and stuff like that. So,
Yeah. So there you go.
well, all right, man.
All right,
I had a
dude.
good time.
It was good, man. It was a good show.
Yeah, had a lot of
See
fun.
you.
So,
We'll do this again in 2 weeks
all right.
for
2 weeks.
Longbeard. Is it Longbeard?
Uh, yeah,
Longbeard.
something Salisbury or something now. I think
Salisbury steak beard. Salisbury
Salisbury
beards.
brown gravy. Man, that sounds.
Don't get any brown gravy in your long beard.
Yeah. Save it for later.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Cool.
Well, man, it's
All right,
good
man.
to see you. So
You too, brother. I'll talk to you later, man.
we've been busy lately, so
Yeah.
yeah, we need to
I have it.
circle back quick. So
Circle back.
I got a lot of stuff to tell you. Life has
Okay.
been interesting. All right, buddy.
Okay.
I'll see you.